my friends are heathens,
So let's get started, everyone. Welcome to the second Panthers Fellowship of True-Thinking, Agnostic, or otherwise secular students, where all faiths are welcome, and the only sacred truth is that there are no sacred truths. So welcome, everyone.
Except love.
Love, I think maybe we might break this rule, but you've been saying it for so long.
But love is so.
Yeah. Oh, let's find out. Maybe there is something sacred about love. So, yeah, I think that would be pretty cool to discuss. So the ground rules: we've got our talking monkey here. If you have the talking monkey, you are allowed to talk. If you're talking without the talking monkey, the person with the monkey has permission to throw it at your head. So don't do that. Some people are better at it than others, so keep that in mind. We'll start out with introductions, so we'll just go around the room, say your name, your major, and an interesting fact about yourself. Yep, that sounds good. We'll do that today. So I'll start. My name is Michael, and I study physics here at GSU. I'm a senior, and an interesting fact about myself is that I play the flute. So I will start. Hello.
My name's Xavier. I'm a biology grad student, and an interesting fact is, I played the clarinet until 9th grade.
My name's Robin. I study microbiology here. I'm a senior. An interesting fact about me is I have a toe with super strength.
Whoa.
My name's Kat. I'm an actuarial science major. I don't have a super strong toe, but I can play the oboe, and I'm sorry.
That's cool.
I'm Sienna. I study computer science, and an interesting fact about myself, I don't have an understanding of limits when driving.
Oh, I thought you were about to
Did you say driving or deriving?
Damn it! Driving.
Oh, I thought that was the math thing.
I'm Danielle. I'm also a computer science major. I was born preemie.
I'm Cody. I'm a CIS major, and I'm a musician working on my third album with this guy right here.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Tommy. I'm a philosophy grad. Interesting fact, I happen to speak Croatian.
Say that again.
What?
I happen to speak Croatian.
Ooh. Oh, I'm Danny. I'm a global studies major. What's an interesting fact?
Hi.
Oh, hey, Joseph.
You're in there too?
Yeah, I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
I guess an interesting fact is one time when I was in 5th grade, I ate so much Golden Corral I threw up. No, this was with my parents. I was like 11. I wasn't 5th grade. My mom yelled at me.
I'm Brian. I'm a math major, and I can speak French.
Nice.
Teach me, boys.
I'm Warren. I'm a math grad over at Emory, and I was born late by about 3 weeks.
My name is Carlos. I've been proudly clean for 8 years now. It's been really hard. No, I'm a history major. No, wait, I'm a political science. I keep switching. I'm a political science major with a minor maybe in history. I'm Puerto Rican.
I mean,
No.
race isn't an interesting
Interesting fact, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Interesting fact about me. I can be a difficult person.
That's cool.
Stubborn. Yeah, no, that's
Earth Kingdom.
Hi, I'm Andy. I am studying biology right now as a post-bac student, hoping to be pre-med for med school soon. Interesting fact about myself is that I train my golden retriever to be a therapy dog, and I go volunteer with him and just make old people happy.
That's great.
That's a cool That's what we were drinking. I never remember. I kept asking you about that. Remember that? Yes.
Do your thing.
Oh, I'm Serena. What are we doing? A major.
Major interesting fact.
I'm a biology and neuroscience dual major. What's next?
Your interesting fact that you're addicted to your cell phone.
No,
Ever.
I was born on my parents' anniversary 2 years after the fact to the date.
Whoa.
That's almost a symbol of wealth right there.
So, name, major, and interesting fact.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. My name is Joseph. I'm a physics major, and yeah, right.
Hell yeah.
And I'm the spawn of Satan. Nice to meet you all.
All right, nice to meet you.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't really have an interesting fact. I'm not really interesting, but I am funny, so.
That's interesting.
That's a really
It's a damn shame
Yeah.
that Spawn of Satan missed my empty soul speech.
Yeah, you missed it. You were like...
We're separated at birth. I feel
Wait,
that connection.
what is this speech?
I don't know.
About how atheists cannot love because we're just,
My
they
soul
have
is
their...
It's because they're Muslims.
My soul is
It's
my
not Muslims.
But everyone's capable of love.
Yes, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. So let's jump right into it. Religions and love. We've got a bunch of different perspectives to hear. We've got some atheists, some Buddhists, some Christians, some very atheists, some very Christians. So let's see what love means to different people. We'll start out with Hemant Mehta of the Friendly Atheist, talking about a misconception that we did talk about just now, about how people can't believe atheists are capable of love sometimes, which I find hard to believe, but it happens.
Are atheists capable of love? And it's one of those questions that's kind of offensive that you would even have to ask that. But the argument behind anyone who might ask that question is, well, if atheists just believe we're all a bunch of chemicals or something, and if you love somebody, it's just a series of chemical reactions going on in your body, can you really love another person?
Yes.
Then let's put that to rest right now. Yes, atheists are capable of love. Saying that we're not because it's just a bunch of chemical reactions, that's like saying music is just a bunch of sound waves. Like, technically, yes, it is, but we all know it's so much more than that. Because music evokes emotion and feelings, and you don't need to believe in the supernatural for that to happen. And the same thing goes for love. Love is a bunch of shared experiences. You've decided that you want to share your life with another person, and Jesus doesn't need to join in and make it a threesome for them. I really don't believe you have to think that you are going to spend not just the rest of your life, but all of eternity with your partner in order to make that real love. I actually think there's something kind of beautiful in the atheist outlook on love, which is that, we don't believe in an afterlife. We don't believe there's anything beyond the grave, which means, if we're lucky, we get to live for, 70 years, 80 years, something like that, and you're choosing to spend hopefully the majority of that with someone you met and someone you want to spend that rest of your time with. You're only alive for like the blink of an eye from the universe's perspective, and we're so lucky to even be alive. And you're saying, not only do I want to spend the rest of my life with you, I would give up anything for you. I want to start a family with you. I want to spend pretty much every waking hour with you. That's probably the most selfless thing you can do. And not only that, if you think you're going to spend eternity with someone, I don't know, I could see that as the basis for an argument that atheists are more capable of love than someone else. Because we know it's all going to end soon, and yet we're choosing to spend our time with one another. If you think you're going to be with someone for all of eternity, maybe that gives you an incentive to not do everything possible for that other person in the here and now. And that's not to say that Christians are incapable of that, but that atheists are no less capable of love than religious people are. And I think another important thing to bring up is that there is something kind of amazing about the fact that atheists don't believe God guided them to that other person. I think I've heard a lot of religious people say, God guided me to that other person. They might meet online, but they'll say, God meant for us to be together. God had someone special out there for me. And if you're an atheist, you probably don't believe in any of that. Which means that, you might have met someone through good luck or serendipity or, through some online thing, or maybe you met just at a party somewhere. And out of all this chaos of the world, of all the things that had to go right for you to meet that special someone, you found a way to create some sort of order and beauty from that chaos, and you made something of that, and I think that's just the most amazing thing. And it's so much cooler to me that you made something happen like that than if...
What? Who's doing the humming?
Yeah, really. Like, can you
It was me, but then he joined, but I don't know if he knew what was being said. You
continue
to say, you know, I was always meant to meet this other person, and God was always just guiding me there. It's like, well, you could have done anything, and it would have worked out just perfectly for you if you believe in that sort of thing. But for atheists, no. There are millions of things that could have happened, and yet you decided to take this route. You chose it for yourself, and you made something out of that. There's something just really incredible about that.
So I think Hemet Meta believes that it is definitely possible for atheists to like love people, obviously. Danny.
Isn't it kind of obvious? Isn't it kind of obvious? Like, is there some kind of written rule that like certain types of people are incapable as well?
Yeah, I think it's not obvious to everyone, or at least my interpretation is that their worldview is so invested in this one outlook that I don't think that they can understand any other way. Not to group people as they, but there are lots of people who cannot understand.
I mean, it's a different type of love that lets you not see that other people can love too.
Yes. Yeah.
I find a lot of what he says really troubling.
How so?
I think that, like, he's trying to talk about something that he doesn't even know how to define. Like, that love exists as, like, an action for him.
Mm.
So, like, I would define this more as compassion, perhaps, for people who, you know, or generosity. Saying validating something and saying that you're a great person and I love you, you know, that's an action.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that constitutes love.
So love is not necessarily an emotion, but more of an action to you?
No, it's less of an action, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know if I want to say for me, because like, if we define love as a feeling that's capricious in nature, so like
How so?
sort of random and whimsical,
Yeah.
something that we can't really choose.
Is that maybe emotions are like that?
Okay.
Is that? I don't know. I'm just asking questions.
The ancient Greeks actually believed there was more than one type of love.
Yes, they did.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to speak about these different kinds of loves that the ancient Greeks talked about?
So basically, much eros is sexual love. Agape is selfless love. Storge is the love between friends. And then I forget the one that's like altruistic type of love.
I think that's the agape, right? Yeah. The
wellness,
the goodness for humanity.
Oh, philia. That's what I was thinking. Philia, the love between friends.
Yes. Yeah. And then does anyone know how to pronounce that last? The Philotia? Philotia?
I don't know.
Yes, the 6 different forms of Greek love. So instead of having just one, they had.
That's also mean.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Did the Greeks refer to it as Christian love? That seems like an anachronism.
No. Okay. So this
you do realize
disclaimer. This came from a Christian website detailing the different kinds of love in the Old Testament.
Okay.
This concept predated.
To reveal my source. Yes, vastly predated Christianity. Yes. Hello.
Anyone else want to make it?
We'll take it. We'll keep going. Yeah, excellent. So you mentioned one form of love called metta, or a certain kind of Buddhist prayer, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's just this reciting things that give you this feeling of benevolence towards other creatures, which I think is an interesting kind of expression of love, if we can call it that. So loving kindness or benevolence, different And then we've been talking about the Greek kinds of love, which are kind of cool. My favorite is the agape, just the selfless, not necessarily Christian. Go to the source because I am not one of those, but I do still feel agape. I think we can say we've already been talking about it. We have no need to go to Wikipedia to learn it because we have people that. Let's just go and see what it says.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back, Cody. Yeah, there we go. So agape, meaning the love, especially charity, love, God for man, man for God. That kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Agape used by Christians to express unconditional love. That's another thing. Do you guys believe in unconditional love? So that's a can of worms. Like where we start unconditional love.
Yeah, good.
So I didn't used to.
Okay.
But my brother got on some drugs and did some things that were probably not so great. And I like previously would have thought, those things would be, that's unforgivable. I can't forgive someone for that. But because he's my brother, I ended up forgiving him anyway. And so I feel like that's probably my version of unconditional love. So I didn't used to think that I would be able to like forgive somebody or still love somebody after that. But I guess my opinions changed after it actually happened. So.
Okay.
Did he ever fix the problems he had? And if either way, I assume your love consisted of wanting him to be better for his own sake, largely?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I can actually speak to what you're saying because my brother is also twice convicted felon and kind of living a shitty life. But where we kind of diverge is my brother never tried to fix that. And if you look back, like a lot of his stuff was recently. Recently he tried to shoot me because over like $4. So it's kind of like you can have unconditional love, and that is what most people's love is. But at the point where they do something that is contradictory to them loving you, that isn't love. That's just them expecting you to love them, and they're not giving it any return. So I do believe that for the most part, unconditional love is out there, and that's what constitutes love is. I do believe that love is just unconditional love, but the fact is that you can fall out of love with someone, even if they're your family, because at the end of the day, we are like animals, we are people, we're sentient. We know that if something is wrong, that we're not just going to wait around and pretend it's all okay. I mean, you can say you love somebody, but at the point where they start killing people or start doing something that's like not who they are, who they told you are, it wasn't like really love as much as they were just trying to play a game with you or doing something that isn't really love.
But even if you fall out of love with them, I feel like you can still choose to day by day. I'm gonna continue to love them and forgive them or not. So I do think some of it is probably a choice.
Yeah, I mean, but if my brother fixes his life around, like all I asked of him is like to actually admit that he did it, and then like to try and fix his life, like even a little sign, because he has to do that. If he does that, I can open him up with open arms. But the fact is, it's like
kind of a condition.
Yeah, it's a condition to get back to love. But once it's in love, it's like you can do like whatever you want. I mean, if he hits me or if he punches me in the face and he says I'm sorry, it's kind of like, But
we can steal that chair.
Hey, you're in my perspectives class, aren't you?
Oh yeah, what's up, dude?
What's your name again? I don't.
Joseph.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Where's Tyler going?
What's your name?
Zane.
Zane.
I'm gonna get another chair.
Awesome. You ready for that testimony?
Well,
yeah, I mean it's open to so who cares?
Yeah. I missed the first one, so.
You guys, MT, yes.
Yes, thank you. Hello, yes, would you like to speak to this?
To the concept of unconditional love.
Yes. What do you think about it?
I think it's important that we go back to the definition
of unconditional love,
or at least to the Greek definitions. You can even stay on this page.
Okay.
And they define it as they define love as several different things, several subsets that fit into a general species love.
Yes.
And I propose a different distribution.
What do you propose?
If you can believe in love that's based in unconditional sort of respect for the other person, right? And that takes effort and that takes practice. And you can also believe in capricious love, which is that randomness and that whimsicalness. I feel like a lot of theories are missing. So,
Okay, thank you.
cool. Sorry.
No worries. We had a couple people walk in, so let's do 3 introductions. Zane? Well, I mean, go.
Nice. What an arm, ladies and gentlemen.
What an honor. He's the next athlete.
Do you still love him?
All of us traditional.
No, no.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, so my name is Zane. I haven't been able to go to the last few meetings because I've been having an anatomy lab at this time, but today I had an exam, so I got up early.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really active during the summer.
Yeah.
And the way I got into this club was that my friend Dylan, the astronomy club, actually knew Michael really well.
Yeah, and you were in a I was wearing my caffeine shirt, and you said, "Is that caffeine?" And I was like, "I like this guy."
Yeah, I'm like, that's my favorite heterosexual
Yeah.
right there.
God, yeah, excellent. Same. We'll get more Orgo later in the meeting. I'll take it.
All right.
Hopefully.
Probably.
Your major and an interesting fact.
I'm a chem major.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I feel bad for you.
Music majors.
But actually, no,
they're so
hey, we also follow an octave rule too in electrons. So.
Yeah.
Interesting fact about me. God, there's not really much about me. I have an Arab name and I drink alcohol.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
And I do like karaoke. Also cool.
Good karaoke singer.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, got it. We'll start here and then there. Okay, that was better.
I'm Molly. I'm a sophomore. I guess the interesting fact about me is I've had 4 eye surgeries.
Wait, what?
4 eye surgeries.
4 eye surgeries, okay. I thought you said forest injuries.
I thought you said 4 ice injuries, like you slipped while ice skating or something.
Oh, speaking of ice skating. Never mind. We can't go back to the arena ice hole.
Hello.
Hi. So, my name is Shawnee. I am a sophomore nutrition major, and I'm a twin.
Cool.
Nice.
I didn't
I was going to say,
okay. Yeah, we gotta ask that. Cool. So we're talking about love, different forms of love across religions, across beliefs.
Stop! You can
Now let's talk about me.
Julia. I got you a chair. Welcome.
My name is Julia. I'm a senior history major. Yeah.
Julia.
Hear her roar.
Oh, you work in a library.
In the basement.
Yes.
Because she's reading.
Yes.
Excuse me.
It's interesting.
I was not asking to call Julia.
I didn't make her work in the basement.
Julia's great. Let's just be
Yes.
honest.
Yeah.
I think we're just
Oh,
conspiring.
you guys are all.
It's okay.
I love you all.
You
Back
see,
to the topic.
Philia.
Yes, philia. Yeah, friendly love. So we are going to talk a little bit about Christian love, the place that love has in Christianity, the different forms, like the love that God feels, the love that Jesus, the other God, feels, and some other stuff. So there are people that criticize some of the different forms of Christian love. I've heard people call Jesus' sacrifice more of a scapegoating kind of thing than true form of love. Does anyone want to speak to different kinds of Christian love or have experience with that kind of love? Yeah.
I think that vicarious redemption is pretty moral.
I'm inclined to agree.
Because it's like first of all, it's the claim that we're all born evil, and that the only way to clear our name, even though we had nothing to do with it, is to torture someone to death. So it's pretty immoral, and wicked to me.
Sounds wicked.
Anybody else?
Well,
Hey, that was good.
Sorry. It's Computer of the Monkeys.
Was it your turn?
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Well, kind of going off of what you said, I think the whole idea of Jesus dying for our sins is very interesting because if you follow what the Bible says, right, God made us the way we are, and He made us have free will, and He made us able to sin, and then when we did sin, it's our fault, not His fault for making us this way, and then to redeem us from His mistake of making us this way, or not necessarily a mistake, but for Him making us this way, He has to send somebody to die, and it's His Son? It makes no sense to me.
It's almost like a bunch of illiterate Bronze Age.
I don't know. It just does not make a lot of sense.
Made it up, you know.
Then you get into Jesus was
nice
God.
we can say this stuff.
Sorry.
Yes.
You're so attractive.
Like, I think the idea of Christian love or brotherly love or whatever they call Christian love, I think it's very, it mirrors the love that they see from their God. So, you know, if, for example, I grew up charismatic, evangelical, Baptist, everything bad you've ever heard about Southern Baptist, all rolled into one thing. So they believe in an angry God, but that angry God loves you. So they're angry, but they love you. But they're angry and they yell at you and they tell you you're bad, but they love you. I'm not going to be able to make that through, so I will let you do that.
Warren, and then yes.
Two things. Number one, Ian Harris has a wonderful segment that's just a few minutes about the concept of original sin.
Okay.
Two, I actually question the wisdom of punishment even among humans.
Yeah?
I don't, depending on the, I'm more, this is especially the case when it comes to, raising children or teaching and the like. I'm less sure when it comes to the crime side of things. But it seems to me most of the time that parents punish their kids, there is a significantly better solution that they're overlooking that'll have better long-term effects.
Yeah, so. Well, yes. Carlos, can you see if we can get more chairs? Well, Carlos is really tired right now.
No, I'm not tired. Where do you have to go?
I'm not even sure, to be honest.
I'll find out.
Okay. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Like the other smart.
Or maybe check in to see if that's locked.
So yes.
So I believe,
hey, we gotta throw the monkey at some people's heads.
Yeah. So I think Christianity and Christian love, it's a little complicated because the love between I come from a predominantly Baptist place and most everybody loves so they can forgive him for just about anything. So it's kind of within their sphere of influence, within their circle of people they know, within their community, they can love anyone. But it's the makeup, kind of the demographic there is so heavily Christian that there's no one from outside, no one who doesn't believe. So when it comes to someone who has outside and they see someone who's gay or they're an atheist or someone different, they kind of have a bias towards them. So it's kind of hard for them to believe that they can love each other like that. And as far as God goes, I do agree there's a certain form of hypocrisy when it comes to I will love you up until the point where you commit blasphemy, and then I can't even love you at that point. So it's kind of if you're 12 and you say you don't believe in God, there is no God, and then afterward you start believing in God, you can't be saved even by your own rules. It's very conditional by that rule. So it's kind of it can be unconditional, but even at that point it is conditional because you have to be a Christian to receive this unconditional love.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. So yeah, with that said, the whole scapegoating thing, redemption, but the other aspects, and I know that I've mentioned this before in a couple of different meetings, but Jesus' radical inclusivity, like his desire to love everyone no matter what. Like that's something I think that a lot of people today could learn from. Like not everything that Jesus said was weird. Some of it was.
It's like for the most part, like love your neighbor and do that stuff.
Yeah.
It can be a certain, like taking parts of it and using that as a foundation can be effective, but if you just blindly follow the whole, you are not a person as much as you are a slave to a piece of paper.
Yeah, I agree. Would anyone else like to speak to Jesus' love? I smell onions.
Well, I was raised as a Sunni Muslim, but believe it or not, I actually went to a Southern Baptist preschool.
Nice.
So, I mean, you were talking about Christ from a very young age. Yeah. I think one thing that they really said again and again was that, I mean, this guy, I mean, he always emphasized love thy neighbor, right?
Yes.
And then later on, years down the road, I found out this guy even spent time with prostitutes.
Yes, he loved them just the same. The prostitutes. The
he didn't engage with the prostitutes.
Well, not love, but different kind of love.
Yeah,
there we go.
And another thing I think is that he did, because do you guys remember when Disney was going to pull out of the state because of some kind of law, some new bill that was in the
religious freedom?
Freedom bill. I remember
religious freedom bill.
The governor of the state, what was his name at the time?
Deal.
Yeah, Nathan Deal. He was a practicing Christian. He even mentioned, he's like, Christ had said that we have to reach out to the outcast, which in this case was the gay people. Said that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a religious guy, but I kind of wish Pat Robertson had heard that,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got something to say about what Pat said.
Especially about Las Vegas now.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, some bullshit.
Even 7 years before that, do you remember the earthquake that happened in Haiti? Back in I think it was August or September of 2010.
Yeah.
And, Haiti shares a border with the Dominican Republic, and Dominican Republic's majority Catholic country. So I never thought a Boston guy would say this, but he said that the people in the Dominican Republic, they did not suffer from an earthquake because they weren't practicing voodoo.
Whoa. What?
No, I mean, I'm a free speech fundamentalist, but I don't have to agree with that.
Free speech fundamentalist. I can get behind that.
Warren, you think your hand was up first?
Well, I think Andy had it first, and then we're just gonna,
Sure.
Who wants to go?
Okay.
Somebody has to go.
Whoever catches it.
Yes, we are adults.
I missed my chance. No, so that's very similar to when we talked about the Westboro Baptist Church and their leader, and how he was this very famous civil rights activist who was like, yay, black people, but then he was like, ooh, gay people. So it's like you can pick and choose who to love and who to not love. So
we all cherry pick.
It doesn't sound very Christ.
Give me over.
This reminds me of during Katrina, there was a pastor in New Orleans who said God sends hurricanes to flood, for punishing gay people. Yeah. And guess whose house was flooded? The pastor's.
Must have been very gay.
Who hasn't since cast the first stone?
He was very gay.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, I was just going to say one thing. Is there a geological reason why Haiti suffers a lot more from earthquakes, or does it have to do with their infrastructure mainly?
I think there is. There's a new plate there. 100%.
The Caribbean plate. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's gotta be the crowd.
Okay, so I don't know. I feel like with coming back to Christianity and love and stuff like that, a lot of Christians do just like, I hate gay people or I hate this, I hate that. But the religion itself doesn't teach that. It does in the Bible. It does say that it is obviously against homosexuality and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of Christians that I know, they don't really care if someone is not Christian or is not gay or is not. It's just like the religion itself doesn't teach. If someone's not like you, hate people. So
yes, I think. Did anyone else want to speak to? Yeah, that is similarly for me. Like the people that I know, the people I spend time with, are not like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't really want to spend time with them. It's kind of like a self-selection, but I see what you're saying. Yes?
So, like, going off of that, it's kind of like what I've noticed is that there's a distinct divide in Christians between those who practice exactly what the book says or those who, like, listen to what it choose what they feel is like the actual right message, like looking at society, looking at how it's evolved, and like looking like, is this really wrong, or is this wrong just because someone said it's wrong? Okay. And a lot of that can go into like geographic areas. Like I know from where I am, they're like heavily like from the Bible, so there's a really big anti-gay community there. But from other places, like when I come to Atlanta, it's not like there at all almost. In fact, it's one of the most like welcoming places. So it can be like a mix of like geography and how like each specifically like section, like county or even state, it like and how the churches there treat their pew or their people, and that's like really where most of this comes from.
Oh yes.
So I kind of want to go back to what you were talking about. You said that I can't remember because we started talking about different communities and how they are represented in the idea of Christian love, and I think that like I don't know, it's preaching a method to reach like a moral state. And some people think that it's less moral to believe that gay people or black people should be included in the conversation. Some people think it's more moral. But like the overarching lesson is that Christian love is getting us ready for like a revelation, sort of. That the overarching idea of morality is like pigeonholed by this method that we are supposed to like subscribe to. Does that make any sense?
Similar, I have to say, like you say, you can't blame the religion because there are people who follow this religion that don't believe that. But in that case, I would just have to say that those people are unique because the actual book does say a certain thing versus what those people adapt to and change their beliefs or, I guess, their tolerances to. But otherwise, when you go back to the original book, the original holy book of that religion, it does, speak against homosexuality strongly.
What I was saying was, I acknowledge that the Bible does speak against homosexuality and it speaks against, different groups of people, but it also says that you shouldn't judge people, only God could judge people. So I'm saying, like, the followers themselves, if they're like, I hate gay people, or I hate black people, or I hate this or that, then that's not really following the religion.
I really liked what, last week we talked about Jefferson's Bible, how he cut out everything, like,
literally cut it.
Yeah, literally cut out all of the, I guess I'm talking directly to, he cut out all the bad parts, all of the mystery, the hate, the scorn against groups of people, so I really wish that would have caught on, like, just take out the bad stuff and we could have.
I wish I knew that. But then at that point, it's a whole different
religion. And kept the loving parts, yes. I like the love. The love's good. Yes.
I've been here the entire time, so if somebody's already said this, I apologize. But
welcome, by the way.
Thank you. In my, or like even not just my experience, but if you actually look at the Bible, like the Old Testament does say to stone gay people to death. The New Testament says slaves need to obey their masters and women need to be submissive to their husbands. And so if you actually look at what it says, it's easy to, kind of like whitewash it and say, oh, it's about love, but it does say people who don't believe in our religion are going to be tortured for all eternity, and they absolutely deserve that. So it's still preaching hate. Even if you say hate the sin, love the sinner, if somebody's sin is their identity, if it's, say, being gay, you're still hating them. Even if it's just hating the characteristic of them, because you can't choose your sexuality, so it's, if you hate somebody's sexuality, you are in a sense hating them because you're hating something that they have no control over. And so I think that's why, even if it does say, quote unquote, like love your neighbor, the Bible as a whole, you know, the entire book, even if there are parts that, you know, have love in it, really is a hateful book in my opinion. And the same thing applies to, you know, the Quran, the Torah, and other books of that nature, even though I can only really speak on the Bible because that's all I've read.
And we are going to talk about love in Islam and other faiths.
So back to the what you were talking about you were saying that most people, they don't actually follow their holy books literally, you know. You guys, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Atheist Republic. Yeah. So the founder of that group is actually an Iranian guy, Armin Navabi. You guys know him? No. Okay, well you should look him up. Okay. He was just interviewed he has a podcast called Secular Jihadists. And he was interviewed in a separate podcast with Seth Andrews, who, you know, we all know Seth Andrews. Yeah. You should watch his video if you get a chance. Yeah, that is.
Yes.
He's still mad about this. Great.
I like their caricatures. I
like their T-shirts.
So yeah, the third, the Iranian guy is this one right there. One of the Atheist Republic shirt. He has said when he was interviewed by Seth Andrews on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel, he said time and again that if you meet nice people who are Muslims, they're ignoring Islam, totally ignoring it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, they used to ignore Islam a lot, but since the 70s, there's been a resurgence in fundamentalism.
Yes.
There's a video of Gamal Abdel Nasser, who's the president of Egypt, but from I think it was 1951 to 1970. And in 1966 he was giving a speech, and he had met with the head of the Muslim Brotherhood. I think his name was like Hassan al-Banna or something like that. And he asked him, he was like, I want you to make you can find this on YouTube, a 3-minute thing. Okay. Said, yeah. We never need to explain it. You should go watch it right now. Type in
Daddy.
Well, let me write down a note and we can
Daddy.
It's just type in Nasser laughs at hijab law.
Okay.
Daddy laughs at hijab.
Yes. Yeah. But if I don't write it down.
Hey, Michael, real quick. Can y'all
Yes.
move the chairs?
Oh, yes, we're going to get Mike, thank you.
Oh, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we totally ran out of chairs.
Yeah, so he was basically laughing at how that the Muslim Brotherhood wanted to make it legal. He wanted to make it mandatory for all women to Egypt or wherever. And this guy was laughing at that. Wow. It's like, are you crazy? I can't do that. And 51 years later, there are a lot of people who want that. So it's the greatest tragedy of the time. I wish I was not born in 96. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, so
cheers.
The sense I'm getting here, which I think I sort of already knew, is it seems like at least the Abrahamic holy books are a lot like politicians in the sense of being vague and inconsistent to such an extent that you would be, like in the case of politicians, you would be able to point to things they said that align with what they're now doing no matter what they did. Yes. And maybe it's something similar where you can point to parts of your holy book that agree with you no matter what you actually believe, at least to a certain extent.
Yes.
Maybe that's going on.
I agree.
Oh, I love this.
It's vague enough.
Easy to, yes.
No, it's horrible. Giving up breast milk is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I bet the founding fathers had an easier time writing the Bill of Rights. All right, we're done.
You think the language in the Second Amendment is clear enough? You know, about the right to bear arms?
Of course it's clear. Every American has the right to hang a pair of bear arms on their wall. How could that possibly be misconstrued? All right, fantastic then. Wait, you know what? Before we send this to the printer, let's take that abortion thing out.
I actually have another video.
That's just
suggestion.
savage right there.
Family Guy, All Religious Wars, I think it's called.
All right. I'm writing all these down. If we don't get to it tonight.
It's like only 12
Actually, can we
seconds.
watch that right now, the Family Guy one? Because I haven't seen that.
Hang on, Family Guy what?
Like All Religious Wars. I think it's called like
You said it's like 20 seconds long?
that. Like even less than that.
Oh, are you trying to say the Crusades weren't justified?
What?
You filmed it?
There isn't a hate.
All right.
Everyone's a figure.
Let's
My
do it.
favorite is the Latin.
people got along just fine for thousands of years without AA. Just like they got along for thousands of years without religion. I like you and have no reason not to. I like you and have no reason not to. Hey, did you hear about that magic baby that was born in Bethlehem?
Yes.
Just so true. Okay. That's one way to look at things. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm not clear. Why did the two guys that liked each other at first stab? Did the middle guy disagree with the outside two agree with each other?
Because magic, baby.
Obviously. Have you never heard of the Albigensian Crusade, where Christians killed other Christians?
The Fourth Crusade. That was the let's go convert people for money.
Oh no, it's like you forget the Teutonic Crusade.
Yeah.
Let's go over there and kill some pagans. Oh, Poland's over here. Well, let's see here.
All that commotion for you, sir. Sit down.
It's turning into racial genocide, right?
That is all.
Thanks. Thanks for coming, Ricky. All right, let's keep moving. We've exhausted Christianity for now. We saw. Oh yes, and intermission. Tyler has an announcement.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Hello. My name is Tyler. For those who don't know me, I see a couple of new faces, so welcome. So to express our love for inanimate objects, we had decided, because it's National Taco Day, we brought in some stuff for tacos. So you want to take a little brief intermission, 5 to 10 minutes?
Let's take a 5-minute intermission. Let's get some
tacos.
Tacos!
I haven't seen It's Daddy.
I know. But at the same time, I mean,
there's other meetings
Big brother.
He's the daddy of all Arab Fuck you! Fuck you! No, I'm not okay. How dare you insult Fuck you too. No, you're
honestly, neither of us were expecting that open science
What country did you know this?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
How much of those?
actually tripping on the way up or whatever and almost fall back. Oh no, I've never had that. No, I have had that. Scares a lot better. It's like so, it's a little on the like, oh shit, no. I was just walking. I was like, oh shit. That quick bounce us up while you're falling. It's the worst way. No, it's the worst. Like, how? Something overlooking.
We're Somalia. We hate ourselves.
I do.
It's fuck you. Sorry, man. When I get talking about Arab League, when people want to talk Arab League, no.
It's not have to worry about it. Of
course you got Russia. I have a message. I'm a fear of heaven. I think, like my mom said, we're probably.
Does she address what really looking dude as?
If you have a title, that would be pretty good.
People are very
Well, your case is not very high. Your case is not very
well,
that woman. That's how a lot of people heard it. I'm not like.
Yeah, but it was a good thing. I mean, people everybody felt his neck. That's a good thing. I'm not that sure. There's one place I know that it's not worried and it's actually good.
That's what I'm officially known as. You're oh wait, you're in a man with mom.
I'm the fat chubby elf.
What do you do? I have too many times with them Theodora. I have to be friends with M. I got like big Robinson friends who not know.
I said yes No, they're not funny.
I was like, I'm not doing that. I understand it's the first time I hate the fight. I actually, I haven't read it.
It's all your fault.
We are a great organization. We are an organization committed to the protection of the middle Everything is great. Now listen to Daddy. Listen to Daddy.
If you feel like the reader knows you, and then wait till whatever it does, they say, yeah, she's more polished, but
I don't know.
great celebration.
I just want an empathy. I'm the ones who made with fucking beans. Those are fake.
No beans. I told you I have a bodyguard.
Why are people beating each other up?
Question of love, right? Yeah,
You said it was a question of love.
Wasn't this other one, the first few times are what I'm trying to I'm trying to always do this thing where like I don't
Teach me your ways,
Alright, the meeting is starting.
Oh, yeah.
It's been starting. Wait, remind me. Yeah, go back. No.
These are people who are complaining about the fact that there might be a woman president. Did I get that right? James?
I forget exactly what this was, but this was from 2013. But
I have
it's still hilarious nonetheless.
I have a question. What does it have to do with love?
What does it have to do with?
Well, we'll see.
Let's.
You'll see at the end that it's the opposite of love, but
it's the opposite of love.
Michael, the
yes.
translator.
Love is more than
So
yes.
It's more like a nuclear Christian. It's actually.
You'll have to see.
I mean, I like a little surprise like when they
yes,
do
y'all know that the U.S. voted against a proposition by the UN to put a ban on countries that have death penalty for homosexuals. Yeah. We're right next to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, all the other countries. Yeah, it really sucks.
Wait, but is there a reason? Like, do we use things from?
Okay, just
yes.
I can actually offer an explanation of why we did that. Okay, so one, this is actually part of a long-standing pattern. Every time anything in the UN has come up demanding an end to the death penalty, the US has opposed it. But also, there was a provision in there that said you can't execute mentally ill people, which, of course, our wonderful government doesn't like. Given that they spend that state governments spend ridiculous amounts of time and money getting bootleg drugs from India to kill people, it makes sense that they want to kill as many people as possible.
Whoa.
But so the clause that says they can't kill people who are mentally ill, does that include, I mean, up until a certain point in America, homosexuality was considered a mental illness. So, like, what does that include in those countries?
It was by Western European standards, so it would have, because it mentioned specifically homosexuality as being separate from mental illness, although I imagine in some countries they'd be one and the same.
Right.
Take it. So we are going to get back to the topic of. Wait, were you just?
No, I was just raising my hand.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I was raising your hand.
We're going to get back to love. If we've got some time, I've copied these links that Zane has given me that I think would be hilarious to watch. So we've got those. Let's keep going. We've seen the meme. So one thing I wanted to touch on was the concept of fear as love. So when I was a Christian, something that was really harped on was the you got to fear God to love God, or through your fear you'll see the love. And after, like, I can see kind of where that's coming from, like all the awesome power of God. But after deconverting, it's like I don't necessarily see the good things in being in that kind of abusive relationship. Would anyone like to speak to that? After chewing?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, at least in a modern conception, aren't love and fear like almost opposites, like a dichotomy? Do you think that love? Do you think that fear and hate almost like? But the fear that they're talking about, I mean, I almost think it kind of denies the opportunity for self-love. If you're constantly like worried that your actions are going to be analyzed and judged by a higher being, then you kind of lack that self-love. So it's almost like this kind of fear we're talking about is like counterintuitive to the idea of love.
I would say that I used to be extremely religious. I read the Bible for like 2 hours every day. I was it was to the point where I actually did develop obsessive compulsive disorder. And so I think it probably ties in somewhat there. And for me personally, it created a lot of, like, I tell people it made me happy, but I know it really created just a lot of anxiety and pain because I was so scared. Especially when I started like exploring my sexuality, I'm like, oh shit, I like people I shouldn't like. I feel thoughts I shouldn't like. This is wrong. This is against God. Yada yada yada. And so it created just a lot of internal loathing, and it created a lot of pain. And so I was afraid, even though I said, oh, I'm so happy and I love this religion and God and all that. I really was in a lot of pain and fear because of it.
Thank you. Wait,
I almost had it. But yeah, I feel that like for a lot of people, religion is almost an abusive relationship because they're told I'm supposed to love this person, and they actually fear the person, and when they try to leave, they're like scared to leave because, they're scared of the person. They're not scared to leave because, oh, I love the person. It's mostly like, I'm scared of the person. So then with religion, you're like, okay, so why am I not doing certain things the Bible's not telling me to do? Is it because I love this God and I respect this God? Or is it because I'm scared of what this God's going to do? And for a lot of people, even know.
That's pretty common.
Sorry, I don't want to take time away from anybody else or anything. I just wanted to say there's actually a song by a rapper called Braden Square. The song's called Stockholm Syndrome. And it's actually just about this very exact thing we're talking about. So I just wanted to point that out because I think some of y'all have like, and it's actually, I'm not really big on rap thing, but
Right. So expanding on Isabel's point just now, another interesting thing that happens is that abusive partners will do their best to give you the impression that the outside world is never going to welcome you, and the outside world is full of horrible people and things like this. And I think that's kind of analogous to when religious people say that everyone outside their own religion is horrible people, or atheists in particular.
That's,
one way or another.
That reminds me of something that my mom said when I was a lot younger and I didn't understand what like Jehovah's Witnesses were, and going around the neighborhood talking to people. I asked my mom, like, what do these people believe, and what's because obviously they wore different clothes and came around knocking on doors, and she said something I'll never forget. It was, well, they believe in God, but they believe that everyone else is going to go to hell. They believe that we're going to go to hell, and that really stuck with me because that was exactly what we believed about everyone else. And she didn't see the yeah, all those words. Yeah, hypocrisy, irony, parallel. Yeah, that's that planted a seed in myself. All that to say, yes. Yeah. Cool. God-fearing. I think we did. pretty much exhausted this. We'll move on to, some of our preacher friends that come around spouting love. How it's not that that they hate people; it's that God is telling them to do something.
I mean, this reminds
man, right on the noggin.
Like when I was younger and used to go to church and it was like Dios es amor, pero también Dios es fuego consumidor. Did I say that right? God is love, but God is also a consuming fire.
He's watching you.
Yeah, I don't. So it just doesn't remind me of that as a kid. It was like God is love, pero Dios también es fuego consumidor. Consumidor. Consumidor.
Yeah.
I can't speak English. Yeah, it's hard. No.
Hey.
Here you go. All right. So we're going to explore the possibility that Islam may be a religion of peace, maybe a religion of love as well. Let's click on it and see. Yeah. First of all, does anyone have any initial impressions, things they would like to say, personal experiences from Islam? Yes.
Okay, I don't know much about the religion itself because I've never actually been around. But from talking to different Muslims and stuff like that, versus talking to a lot of maybe Christians who don't like Muslim people, and they think that they relate it to the whole terrorists and stuff like that, which I know obviously is crazy. But from my understanding, Islam itself means peace, and a lot of Muslim people are they live by like I don't know how to Yeah, I'm just gonna we might
think about it.
I'll come back to
Okay.
Okay. I hope Zane comes back because I'm sure he has a lot of thoughts about it.
Just like he left.
But my understanding was it doesn't mean peace; it means submission.
Yes.
And to me, that's a very different thing.
It's one of the mysteries.
Hey, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. What are you saying?
We're talking about Islam as a religion of love.
Oh. Well, there's one sect, the Sufi Muslims are. They're actually really dedicated to that whole tolerance thing, but they're being killed by the extremists right now.
Oh, that's not good. Ricky.
I was gonna say, what word did you say?
Submission.
Yeah, no, but like which word did it?
Islam.
The word Islam. The original meaning of the word Islam is what we were discussing.
I think it's like you always have to remember that it's not like interpreted in context of how we perceive it. So, in your sense, like submission to God isn't like bad. It's like it's natural. It's the best thing you can have for yourself. And also with like the ideas of like these religions being loving when they seem like they're cruel at times, it also comes from the idea that it seems that love isn't just simply about having empathy for like every single thing about a person. Exactly, it's just about like what you perceive as the concern and best interest for someone outside of how you feel, how they feel. So I think that's what they think that love is, because you're always pursuing that best interest for that person, regardless of if it seems like it's in agreement with their feelings.
Well, interesting the whole submission thing, because let's not forget history. Islam is a religion that was propagated through the caliphites and through jihads. Yes.
Not the only faith, though.
It might be that you want to submit to the love of God, of Allah, but you also want others to submit to His love, and you do that through force. And lots of people used to argue that, for example, Ottoman Empire, that lots of like the minority religions, they were living really nice, but they were still like they had to pay taxes, and it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for them. That's
it was really heavy tax, by the way.
Yeah.
Jizya, that's what it's called in Arabic.
Brandon?
Got it?
I can get it.
Got it.
Miranda's gone. Oh man, now I forgot what I was going to say. I hate that.
If you think of it, we'll just pass it to Zane.
I don't remember.
What were you saying again?
Are there loving aspects of Islam?
Yeah, there is some, I think.
What is like a good part? What is something good that you've heard said, or something should be said more? Do you think?
Well, back in the about 20 years ago, there was I told you about Sufi Islam, right? It's a very peaceful, tolerant form. So the whole thing is basically based off of music. I know like who would ever thought, but you know. So there are these. They have these songs. They're called qawwalis, right? Which are basically like they just sing about tolerance and stuff like that. So there's one guy. His name is Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Okay.
I know it's a Pakistani guy. Why was his name pronounceable? But
well, no, you want to type it in.
I'm literally learning.
yeah, I can spell it for you. NUSRA. Yeah, there.
Hey, man, Google.
Wow.
He's really popular. Like this guy has shows in England.
Oh, he's like an artist. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's maybe we can listen to some of this stuff on the way out. That would be we can definitely do that. Cool.
And there's a lot of these guys, like I said, they're being killed by the extremists. Like there was one guy named Amjad Sabri, who actually toured here in the U.S. My mom and dad went to go see him, and literally like 3 weeks after that, he was in Pakistan, and they were he was at a red light, and somebody came and shot all the windows in his car. And I mean, I saw it on TV. His brother was crying while they were interviewing him. So you just imagine how bad that must be.
That's not loving. That's not loving.
Did he die?
Oh yeah, he died.
He died.
Man.
Whoa.
Got it.
The angle was too high and the initial velocity was too high.
Yeah, just
beautiful. So one thing I want to add on to what Carlos said, Juan Escalona had stated was just that, you know, we've been talking about different cultural contexts of love, you know, in Greek culture, American culture, and other cultures. Yeah. And I think that this also applies here, where there can be a conception of love where you believe that, you know, whatever's in their best interest, that, you know, and trying to pursue that for that person and trying to get them to pursue that is love. And at the other time, just like forcibly putting them into the love of God, or like kind of not like almost like coercing them into love, would be another conception of like, you know, love, like hard love, or love hurts, you know, another one of the sayings. So I think taking that context, you know, it really helps define love as different religions such as Islam and Christianity define it, because, you know, love can ultimately be just like love things to where they don't suffer, and then love could also be that love is suffering, you know, but you get some kind of like better reward or pleasure through that suffering.
Okay. Juan Carlos.
Oh,
so close.
Where's I believe that the Nazis, lots of Nazis, had love for their country, love for the Volksgemeinschaft, the people's community, and for their fellow Aryan brothers and sisters. I believe that Al-Qaeda members and ISIS members have lots of love for their community, for their family members, and for their valley.
Wow.
I don't think Trump loves anyone, but he loves himself a lot. But there can be like the most awful person they meet. He tortures people. Like, let's say an SS officer. But when he gets home, he has lots of love for his children. Narcos, Pablo. He loved his family, huh?
Oh God! No, let's not go into the
point is that
this is just
the point is that I lost my train of thought. But y'all kind of know where I was going, right?
I mean,
anyone?
Like, didn't he love Obeje? Like, I'm pretty sure those were members of his gang.
Yeah, that's so
Pablo
Escobar. Yeah, Narcos.
Honestly, I really
excellent. let's keep going.
You don't have to make it.
So we've got time for 2 video clips. Let's see.
It's a Brazilian.
Yeah, let's take a look. I don't know which one are we gonna do.
I don't want to touch
It's not that one.
Oh,
yeah. I think they should establish that
Wait, what are those?
there's good and bad in religion. It's like this. I really liked. Yeah, I know. Not the guy. Just look at the quotes. I guess some people have strong opinions about Nietzsche. There's not enough love and goodness in the world to permit giving any of it away to imaginary beings. Obviously, it's some people think differently. But
it's like a finite resource then.
I mean, yeah. If you think of love as like a chemical, then yeah, maybe it is finite. Maybe it is just the
oxytocin, baby.
The amount of oxytocin going through our brains. Maybe it is just conditional on these molecules. Yeah, oxytocin. I was like, who's going to know this? Obviously, the organic chemistry people.
So much bonding.
So much bonding. Excellent. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So one last perspective we want to touch on is the chemical, the scientific, materialistic basis of love. Can we identify the biological markers of this emotion? Like, is that all it is? Is this all?
I think it'll just go to the question, like,
go for it.
Is there just like, because love is complicated. Love is a bunch of different emotions.
Yeah, maybe not just oxytocin.
So, like, do we think that there's more research to be done on what is love?
Yes,
I think. Anybody have any thoughts?
We should check out their website.
Warren?
That's the monkey.
Exactly.
Oh.
I don't
I haven't seen her over
Yes,
Warren. All right, so I certainly don't know much about the chemical basis for love, but I feel like there's a wide misconception that knowing more about something makes the feeling less awesome if it is an awesome feeling to begin with.
Do you think that's true?
I'm not inclined to think so, having heard from a few different people that are experts on a thing. Like, for example, knowing what's happening when you see a sunset, like why the colors are the way they are and about what the sun is to begin with, that makes the sunset more beautiful, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's an expert in this area. Richard Feynman said something similar about roses. Roses become more beautiful when you know more about how they came about. Does anyone here know a lot about the chemical makeup of chocolate?
It's caffeine a little bit, right?
Okay, maybe. But does knowing more about it make it not taste as good, or taste better, or make no difference?
In my case, I like it more.
I still love it. Did you say you like it more?
I like it. It's just interesting to think about.
Okay. But I suspect something similar can happen for love as we get to understand it more.
Yeah.
There was a woman that talked about love on the TED stage, comparing it to a chef who knows how to make a cake. Doesn't make it any less enjoyable to eat. It's similar. Let's keep going.
Yeah, back to love and stuff like that. About if you know how the hormone works,
yes,
oxytocin, like, is it going to make you not be as much in love? I think if you were falling in love with a woman, like, I think you, like, at that exact moment when things click, I don't think you're going to really care about the even if you won't care about the chemistry, even if you know how it is, just because, I mean,
checking the oxytocin levels.
Because you'll just be, you'll be thinking too much about her.
Like, how much do I like you? Yes, thank you.
That's just my opinion.
But when females give birth, their oxytocin levels are so high that they actually don't remember the pain of the experience afterwards, so that they continue to give birth. So you need to remember that experience so that you know, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't give birth another time because I almost died, right? And it was really painful. But it actually, like, the levels of oxytocin in women's brains right after they give birth is off the charts, ridiculous. So it actually, like, rewrites that pathway of pain into a pathway of pleasure, so that they continue to give birth and, like, propagate species. So you kind of, I think it's good to know about it.
I'm glad women give birth.
I'm glad as well.
I mean, I think it's a good thing, but to know that is also.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Well, in that moment, I don't think you're going to be thinking about the chemistry behind it.
I mean, maybe like that's how you
think about the
flirt.
chemistry later, because like, if you almost died and it was super painful, you'd be like, let's think twice about this.
Does anyone know what this beautiful creature is?
Love.
Is it a vole?
Is that a vole?
No. Is it a vole? It's a vole. I can't believe you guys got that. Oh my god. Yes, this is a vole. Look at the.
It's not a
Oh my
mouse.
god, it's not a mouse, it is a vole. And there's a reason that I'm showing you this
Pair
cute
bonding.
ass video. Thank you, yes, thank you. Pair bonding. This is one of the only animals that mates for life.
What about bonobos?
Another, what? They don't, well, they
No,
mate
they-
everyone for.
Well, they use sex to
forever.
solve all their problems.
Yes. But yeah, these cute ass little rodents,
If you're a bonobo, yeah.
due to the fantastic levels of oxytocin in the brain, mate for life.
Mate with
That
the same
face.
other
Same
one.
bull, yeah, for life. So that's what, eye twitch, like that's what we're looking at. Voles.
What about bonobos?
We can take a look at bonobos. They like mate with everyone forever, though.
I mean,
it's not,
but-
it's not just one.
Bonobos are so much fun, you guys.
Bonobos are pretty fun. So yeah, let's take a look at the scientific perspective of love.
Yeah, try not to worry about it, Warren. You're a good kid. And there's not a brief on that right now, but you'll be getting girls sometime after Brad's out of shape.
You're missing the point, Dad. I don't want girls.
Together.
I want Jessica.
Ah, well, I remember feeling that way about a young lady named your mom. And that's not an urban diss. Your mom was my Jessica. I remember the first time I saw her. I thought,
I should get her pregnant and then she'll have to marry
inappropriate.
Sorry, please proceed with your story about banging my daughter in high school. I'm not sure you want to take romantic advice from this guy, Morty. His marriage is hanging from a thread.
My marriage is fine, thank you.
Jerry, it's your house. Whatever you say it is how it is, but I think a blind man can see that Beth is looking for the door. I barely have a reason to care, and even I notice.
Come on, Rick. Don't talk about my parents like that.
Listen, Morty, I hate to break it to you, but what people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. It hits hard, Morty, then it slowly fades, leaving you stranded in a failing marriage. I did it. Your parents are going to do it. Break the cycle, Morty. Rise above. Focus on science.
Yeah, science.
Alright, well, I'm gonna go get dressed for the dance.
Yeah, I'm just going to check on your mom.
Okay.
Morty, hit that screwdriver, huh? I'm almost finished making my ionic defibrillator, Morty. It's going to be great.
Hey, listen, Rick. You know how you said that, love is a chemical and all that stuff from earlier? Well, I was thinking, could you make some sort of chemical thing happen inside of Jessica's mind? So where she falls in love with me and all that sort of thing? Like maybe make some sort of love potion or something?
Morty, that's such a poor use of my time. It's beneath me. Hand me the screwdriver.
You know what? No, Rick, I'm not going to hand you the screwdriver. I'm not going to hand you anything ever again, Rick. I'm always helping you with this and that and the other thing. What about me, Rick? Why can't you just help me out once for once?
You're growing up fast, Morty. You're growing into a real big thorn straight up into my ass. This is called oxytocin. I extracted it from a vole. You know what a vole is, Morty? You know what a vole is? It's a rodent that mates for life, Morty. This is the chemical released in the mammal's brain. That makes it fall in love. All right, Morty, I just got to combine it with some of your DNA.
Oh, well, okay.
This isn't Game of Thrones. Whoever you smear this stuff on will fall in love with you. And only you, forever. Are you happy now, Morty?
Heck yeah! Thank you, Grandpa Rick.
Forever.
There's no dangers or anything or side effects, right?
Whoa, what am I, a hack? Go nuts, Morty. It's foolproof.
Oh no.
Unless she has the flu.
I don't think we know.
Can we go to ASAP Science now?
ASAP Science? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the ASAP Science. I love ASAP Science.
We have a 2-minute ASAP Science
I
video.
love
Lauren,
it.
yes.
Just want to point out, vole and love are anagrams.
Oh my god.
Whoa. That is actually true.
And the meeting's over.
That's
Thanks for
true.
coming.
I did not think about that.
I didn't even
What a way to
I
end
didn't
it.
think about that.
Thank you.
Thanks
for coming to Singular Panthers.
Wait, that video, the second one I showed you, I was
Yes.
actually talking about fear and stuff.
Alright, yeah, let's take a look at
I wanted ASAP Science.
Yes, we're going to take a look at that after we officially end and people can walk out. If
They're the
like.
best science couple.
Yeah, they really are. Oh my god, I love their videos. It's fantastic. So if you have other things to discuss, talk about law and religion, you're welcome to stay and talk about it with us. We'll be out by 8 o'clock, so just keep that in mind. Let's watch some stuff.
I love ASAP Science. ASAP Science is the best.
Yeah, ASAP Science is
God.
great. I'm guessing since no one's leaving, we're going to watch some ASAP Science.
Yes. Fuck yeah, ASAP Science.
All right. So yeah, what is love? What is the...
ASAP like the writer, or ASAP like as soon as possible?
As soon as possible science. Yes, yeah.
From philosophers and historians to poets and scientists alike, love has captured our imagination and curiosity for centuries. Many have experienced the rush of falling in love for the first time, or the deep feelings of love for your children, family, and friends. But what is love from a biological perspective? No doubt it's intertwined with the evolutionary survival of our species. After all, you come from organisms reproducing, from the very first microbe that split in two, to your ancestors who have all successfully made it since the dawn of time. Sadly, if you fail to have children, this perfect streak comes to a halt. But while we're driven to reproduce, we're also driven to make sure our offspring survive. Though we often associate love with the heart, the true magic can be seen inside the brain. It may not be entirely surprising to find out that the brain of somebody in love looks awfully similar to one of cocaine. Cocaine acts on the pleasure centers in the brain by lowering the threshold at which they fire. This means that you feel really good a lot easier. We see the same thing in the brains of those in love. But it's not just the cocaine or the love that makes you feel good. It's the fact that anything you experience will now more easily set off pleasure centers and make you feel good. Because of this, you not only fall in love with the person, but begin to build a romanticized view of the world around you. Interestingly, nearby pain and aversion centers begin to fire less, so you become less bothered by things. Simply put, we love being in love. So what chemicals are at work to make all of this happen? Both during orgasm or by simply looking at photos of a loved one, there's a surge of dopamine and norepinephrine from the ventral tegmental area. This not only triggers sexual arousal and your racing heart, but gives you the motivation, craving, and desire to be with a person more and more. You see, romantic love is not simply an emotion. It's a drive from the motor of the mind. And this motor brings about intense energy, focused attention, and elation. The pleasure centers are part of the brain's reward system, the mesolimbic dopamine system. If you stimulate this region while learning becomes much easier because it's pleasurable and perceived as a reward. We also see a surge in the neuromodulator oxytocin from the nucleus accumbens, sometimes called the commitment neuromodulator because in mammals it helps to reinforce bonding or attachment. When prairie voles are injected with either oxytocin or vasopressin, they'll instantly find a mate to pair bond with. Finally, studies have shown that people in love have low levels of serotonin, which is similar to people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. This is likely the cause of our obsession and infatuation during early love. Amazingly, these areas associated with intense romantic love can remain active for decades. And while there are many other physiological and psychological components that add to the mix, the truth is, science still knows very little about exactly why or how love works. And yet somehow, we all seem to know it when we feel it.
This is who we are. Someone go out and study it. We got like a good program here for that. So that would be helpful.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.